Somicron. Falcon hates puns and thinks that they're all wrong. One's American and one is an Aussie. Talking about StarCraft 2 and the esports scene.
Hello, and happy podcast day, Falcon Paladin.
Hello, and happiest of podcast days to you as well. Good Somicron.
How you going? It's been a week.
It has been a week. It's been a lot of Warhammer over the last week.
Oh,
also
yes.
Some warmer temperatures, which is nice.
Oh, wow. You got above freezing, I hope?
Certainly did. As much as even 10 degrees above freezing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're so lucky.
I know. I haven't had to shovel my driveway or like scrape ice off of it in almost 4 days now. It's incredible.
That's truly amazing, Sugoi.
Astounding. Yes, quite Sugoi.
It was 40 degrees at like 8 p.m. the other day. It wasn't yesterday. I think it was the night before. It was like 40 degrees Celsius.
40?
Yeah, Celsius.
Okay, thank you. I assumed. Just wanted to make sure.
So it's 100, roughly like 101, right?
Yeah, I know that. Like, I don't know the whole scale, but I know 40 is like I'd rather die. So
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just couldn't sleep, and I ended up stay up to like 9 or 10:30 or something, and fell asleep in my chair for a bit, and eventually went up and went back to bed, and it cooled down to a lovely 36. By 1 o'clock in the morning, it had dropped to about 25. I think the weather said. Like,
Okay, 25's manageable.
25 is
Okay with
like the lovely 70 degrees, 75 degrees.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah, that's fine.
Totally. Absolutely. Still a little bit warm for sleeping for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like 75, I'm like not quite sweating to death, but it's not quite cool enough that I'm like. So. Anyway, excellent.
Yep.
Excellent.
So, the real important question is, do you have any plans for the upcoming Australia Day? I know you're a big fan. Flag in the window kind of guy.
Yep. Huge. The Australian Open was on one of the TVs when I was working out today, and they were playing tennis, and I was like, I will watch this in honor of my respect for Australia. It wasn't any Australian players. I think it was like the Czech Republic versus somebody from like Germany or something. But still, it was in Australia.
It was in Australia. That's what matters.
Yeah.
So you're going to do fairy bread and some lamb on the barbie.
Fairy bread. I forgot that was a thing. Fairy bread's honestly insulting. Seriously, who came up with fairy bread?
I don't know what you mean. I think
It's objectively stupid, is what I mean.
No, it's great. What are you on about?
Okay, let's go over this again for people who don't know. This whimsical 3-ingredient recipe is bread, white bread, slathered in butter, and covered in rainbow sprinkles. Hell.
Okay, corrections on every level of that.
Okay,
One,
okay.
it's hundreds and thousands, not sprinkles.
What?
So sprinkles are like rectangles, right? Hundreds and thousands are like little bowls. Right? They're totally different.
You have so many different types of sprinkles, you've categorized them and named them different things, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, we have two. Sprinkles and hundreds and thousands.
Okay. Oh, no, that's what... Okay, this article does call it hundreds and thousand.
Yes.
Which is a ridiculous name for sprinkles anyway. I'm just never going to get on board with this. I'm sorry.
2, it's not butter. You can also use margarine.
Oh, my...
3, I don't think it's fair to call bread an ingredient, because you can make the bread from scratch. It's got more ingredients. So let's count all of those as well. There's at least like 7.
So count the flour and the yeast.
And the water and the salt and the sugar. No eggs.
Eggs in white bread? No eggs? Okay.
No eggs. Oil,
Right.
salt, sugar, yeast, flour. Yeah.
Count the oven because you have to bake it in something. That counts as an ingredient too.
No, that's a tool, not an ingredient. I'm not counting that knife used to slice the bread or to lather the butter on, right? Like, let's not be ridiculous here, Falcon.
So it says here that fairy bread is served at children's parties in Australia.
That is true.
But it's an Australia Day staple too? Like adults are wolfing
no.
the stuff down? No. Okay, okay.
I did not suggest that it was. I simply asked if you were partaking in it.
Well, okay, whatever, fine. No, the answer is no.
What about lamingtons? You having some lamingtons?
That maybe. I do like lamb. Lamb is delicious. Lamb is always good.
Lamingtons don't have lamb.
Oh, what the heck is lamington?
It's like a dessert. Well, it's more of like a baked snack that is kind of airy and dipped in coconut powder.
Ah. Sure. Why not? We're in the realm of fairy bread here.
It's a cake made from squares of butter cake or sponge cake coated in an outer layer of chocolate sauce and rolled in desiccated coconut. It is quite delicious.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Those ingredients sound fine. Maybe I'll serve fairy bread to my kids one of these days and be like, this is a delicacy in Australia. And they'll be like, and then I'll say, next week I'll show you Vegemite.
Surely one of the kids has a birthday coming up soon. I'm going to have a little birthday party with all the other kids. Just serve it then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you know what? That's a good time to do it. Good call.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you get proper Australian bread. I don't think it'll work with American.
What? What? In what way?
American, well, okay. So sprinkles and 100,000s is basically just sugar, right?
Yeah.
American bread already has way too much sugar. It's just putting something sweet on something sweet. You need proper bread that isn't so sweet like American bread to balance it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I think I can find something like that. Can I buy hundreds and thousands
on Amazon? Probably.
Somewhere. Shopping. Nope. See, it wants me to buy Betty Crocker rainbow sprinkles. That's not what this is, Google. Come on. I put in hundreds and thousands. It's like, here's all these sprinkles. El Guapo cake decorations. Oh, wait. Etsy will sell me hundreds and thousands.
Oh, will it? Etsy, wow.
For $18 frigging dollars.
I can buy it from Master Foods.
I can buy it from
$35. It's like a
I
kilo
can buy
of it.
50 grams of it for $9 from BritishEssentials.com.
You might need more than 50 grams.
Yes, I think you're correct.
I can buy 350 grams for $4.50. So 50 grams for $9 American sounds bad.
Yes, it certainly does. Wow. Okay. Anyway, good. Australia Day is coming up. We'll be prepared. We'll be super ready for it.
Good. That's all I ask.
That's the plan. All right. Excellent. Indeed. All right. We don't hit the Warhammer?
Yeah, let's hit the Warhammer.
Okay. So I read 2 Warhammer books this week.
You are a zippy reader, my friend. Zippy reader.
It's my gift. It doesn't have a lot of like practical making money value, but it's what I can do.
Well, you could be a proofreader, so yeah, it could make money.
Like I said, it's not very good at making money.
Yeah, so I had to like really work to finish, like to actually read these books because I normally listen at work, and I only worked 2 days this week.
So that does slow you down.
Yeah, but I got them done. I got them both done. Let's start with False Gods by Graham McNeil.
Yeah. So, just more bad things happening to the people that we have come to know in these stories. Really, really bad things, pretty consistently.
Wow. No, I don't think there's anything bad happening in this book. Oh. Surely.
Maybe I misread some things.
Maybe you read a different book.
Maybe you read a different book.
Look. Okay, so let's just...
All right.
So, end of Horus Rising, they're like, hey, let's head back to Davin. Erebus has something he wants us to do there, right?
Yes. And we know that Erebus stole that sword from whatever planet. 6319. Again, I can't do numbers with planet names. We need to give it a name instead of calling it 6319 because I can't do this.
Well, okay, the planet of the Interrex.
Yeah, the Interrex planet. Thank you. Perfect.
Yep.
That's
Which
good.
is funny because they actually do that later in this book with another human civilization. They're just like, we're not going to give you the number. It's the Oretian technocracy. That's all you'll know about.
Oh, that's so much better. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So they go down there, and there's someone called Eugen Temba, who is like the military commander left to govern the planet now that it's compliant. And, you know, the Great Crusade and the fleets all just kind of moved on. And he was feeling a little left out and maybe betrayed Horus, is what we're told.
Well, and yeah, a detail that we're given is that he begged to not be left behind. He was like, this job sucks. I want to go see new places and conquer new planets. I don't want to sit here on this rock for the rest of my life and make sure these people stay compliant. This is the worst. And they're like, nope, someone's got to do it. Sorry, bye.
Sorry. Someone's going to do it, and you've proven yourself to be competent, and that's a problem.
It is a problem. Way to go, sucker.
So they get there, and Horus has his little war council, and Erebus comes in and is like, oh, but this place isn't compliant. And fully tricks, with like a tiny little bit of sleight of hand, just fully tricks everyone in the room that Horus needs to personally go and lead the charge, prepare a spear tip, and go and kill Eugen Temper himself, because it's a personal slight against him.
Because Erebus is very particular to say that this dude is insulting Horus. He's not insulting the Emperor. He's not insulting the Legion. He's not insulting the Crusade. All of his attacks are directed against Horus in particular. So Horus is very personally insulted, and he must have his honor regained by killing this dude. That's how it works.
It's the only way it could be. Yeah. So, I'm just thinking, because there's kind of a lot going on there, because Lucan had already asked Carcassy to attend the meeting to watch Erebus. He's like, look, I don't trust this guy. You need to come and watch him. And Carcassy's down there and immediately is like, Horus is such a big personality, barely cannot take his eyes off him, right?
Right. Like, there's a tip that people give to others who haven't met Horus yet. Look at his feet. Because if you look at his face, you like lose the track of anything you were trying to say, and it's embarrassing.
Right. Yes. So there's kind of a thing that all the Primarchs maybe have some sort of magical powers. Like, some of them can literally just like will themselves to go around unnoticed by other living people. Like Korax, he's like one of the stealthy Primarchs, right? Of one of the stealth legions. And you've seen Doctor Who, right?
Yeah.
At least so you know when like the Master comes back and the Doctor and Martha and Captain Jack are like, we need to get around. Here's a little piece of the TARDIS, and they walk around with the key and no one can see them.
Yep.
That's what Korax can do, right? Like, he can make people not notice him. Horus, I think, has some magical ability to make people like him.
Yeah, his charisma is like 12.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing to remember when being like, why do so many people of the Legion just go along with everything he says in the next two books? It's like, they can't not, is the thing. And I think it's a little unfair to some characters to be like, why are they going to do something incredibly stupid? You know, like,
because magic.
Yeah, because
Sure,
magic.
but there are plenty of characters in these books that are like, something is wrong with Horus. We are going to specifically rebel against Horus. And it doesn't seem like it's hard, right?
Well, I mean,
like some people go along with him and they seem like they're just drawn into it, but a bunch of people are just like, no, this is wrong and I'm fighting you. And it's like they have to struggle, you know?
I think what we're seeing there is the willpower of their faith in the Emperor, because all the people who are basically characters who are rebelling against what Horus is doing are all people who are involved in the Lectitio Divinitatis at this point, right? Carcassy isn't, but he's also like the only person looking at things objectively because it's kind of what he does, right?
Yeah.
Mercedes is halfway involved in the faith, whereas Euphrates and Kirill are super religious, right?
Yeah. Euphrates is literally a saint. Or at least is considered one by many people at this point. Yeah.
Yes. But we'll get to that. I just think it's important to note the play between like the people who can say no to what just like doing what Horus wants, faithy because faith as a power in Warhammer is kind of just like a thing. People with strong faith can emanate power in a way that's weird. And there's a scene where it becomes very important as to whether or not that's literally what's happening.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is very interesting to go from like religion is false and pagan beliefs are bad and we're here to teach you the ways of science.
Mm-hmm.
And then within not that long of a time span, like there are both sides that are doing the Civil War, both are like into belief and faith and magic and power. And it's like, okay, that was a quick swap over.
I mean, that's kind of what's happening, but kind of not. You gotta remember that there are a handful of people on the ship who are secretly worshipping the Emperor as a god. Officially, the Emperor does not want to be worshipped as a god, and officially, if they just come out and tell this to other people, both sides will kill them, right? Like, you're worshipping the Emperor who I'm trying to rebel from? Die. You're worshipping the Emperor who we all, who is beloved by all, but is definitely not a god? Die. You know?
Right, which is why them printing up pamphlets and leaving them around is like, what are you doing? Like, I understand you want to promulgate your faith, but this is not the right environment to do it. Like, go find a planet to start on. Don't start on a literal warship of the Legion. Like, this is probably the worst place to try this.
So, interestingly, it's probably a matter of, like, they can't just get their own planet, right? Like, these people are not... But
you're right.
They also can't leave if they wanted to. Like, some of the iterators probably can. Like, there's a lot of talk of, like, Patronella Viva was just sent back to Terra. That's why she's gone missing.
Right. Which is normal. It's a good cover story because it's a normal happenstance. Yeah.
Right. So some people go back to Terra, but going back to Terra isn't really going to help. Mm-hmm. And the ship is huge, right? Like, there's something probably like 20,000 people on that ship, right? Like, so you can probably in the lower decks, right, get away with just leaving pamphlets of shit. It makes me wonder how many of those people can read, but at least at the Remembrancer bar, ideas and stuff like that are probably going to get thrown around pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you just be like, hey, would you like my poetry? And it's a little faithy, and they go, prose could use some work.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
And
fair.
And like our hero Loken is still not into any of this Emperor God stuff.
No.
I don't think he even knows it's happening. So
no,
he does. No,
he does.
He does.
Who talks to him about it?
Because he's working with. Oh no.
He's working with Mercedes. Like Is
she the one that he's protecting? Yeah,
and then she's like, hey, you should also look out for Ignace, and Ignace is also not religious.
Right.
Yeah. But he's also like hanging out with Kirill, and Kirill is. But Kirill's keeping it on the down low to him, right?
Right. He's having him read some stuff, but he's not being very open about what's going on.
He's like, hey, maybe read these books with like faith subtext. And I know there's a lot of like underplay where Kirill's like, oh, I'm going to write another poem for Loken to misinterpret or like misunderstand or whatever. And I wonder if Kirill's at the other end being like, hey, you should read these books.
Yeah.
They're very much about like magic or something, but all the subtext is just like faith and how it gets into you, and Loken's not realize he's like internalizing all of it.
Yeah. Because again, Space Marines are kind of dumb.
A little bit.
They're not sent to war because they're smart. Some of them kind of are, I guess.
Some of them
I don't know. More than others. Yeah.
Varying degrees.
Yes.
All right, so
I'm trying to separate the two books out real quick. Hang on. What's the demarcation event?
So the end of False Gods is the Oretian technocracy, and they're like, and then we'll go off to Istvan in the next book.
So everything Istvan is in the next book. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Fair enough.
They kind of pull that trick twice in a row where it's like, at the end of this book, everything is in Davin now. We're going to Davin. Everything in the next book will be in Istvan.
Yeah. Go to Ispan. So yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about what exactly happened on Davin. We got distracted.
No, we got distracted. So
Right. So Horus goes down there, and holy crap, Davin's supposed to be this forest planet, and it is swamp. And I'm like, oh shit. I haven't read about this. This is bad news for everyone. But they're just like, that's weird. It's swamp now. What happened? And I'm like, you are all going to die. Having foreknowledge is really problematic when you're reading this story.
Maybe
not foreknowledge, but just experience with the plague aspects of the warp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the warp is so thick, it starts turning the planet into kind of a soup. You know it's a bad time.
You are on enemy territory big time.
So basically, Horus is like, I will personally lead the spear tip. And he takes aspects of like several of the companies to personally. It's actually not even on Davin. It's on the moon. It's on Davin's moon.
Oh right,
yeah.
He's like the captain is hiding out on the moon of Davin. Yeah,
right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah.
So they go and they're in like drop ships or whatever, and they start hearing a vox whisper over the radio again. And they're like, oh, crap, is this Samus? Is Samus whispering in our ears again? But it turns out to just be like a ship leading them in, being like, hey, come here. I'm here. I'm right here. Come get me.
Yep.
Horus is a little bitch. Come here. Come and get me.
Right.
And that seems to work.
This is obviously a trap.
Yes.
This is the biggest trap that's ever trapped. But Space Marines are dumb. So they're like, go to the trap. Aim directly at the trap.
So, interestingly enough, this is at like the tail end of a 200-year campaign of like blunt force trauma on the galaxy. I think Space Marines at this point are so thoroughly convinced of their supremacy that they don't think traps can hurt them. Like they know it's a trap, and they're just like, let's just go in and blunt it. You know, we can take it. Like, what is this person gonna do to us?
Yeah, it's a little embarrassing. They're trying to trap us. Yeah, fair. So they get there and they are wading through the swamp, heading for the source of this transmission, and there are these dead bodies floating in the swamp. They're trying to figure out who they are, and they're getting little scraps of like uniform fragments, and they're like, oh, okay, these are our people.
Yeah, these were the people we left behind on the 63rd expedition. I've got just enough information to work that out.
Right. So it's this completely discomfiting thing anyway. And then zombie magic animates the corpses and starts fighting the Legion, and it's bad news. Like it's specifically like one of them is like a struggle for Loken to deal with. It's like, okay, this is really bad for everyone if one of them can handle. Yeah.
So these are basically poxwalkers. They're basically zombies, right? Like, but they're a model you can field in the game. And I think they talk about some like bigger ones with like one eye and a horn. They're like slightly greater demon-ish kind of things. So there's some like noble stuff. They actually drop a Titan on the moon. Like Horus is so so like, we need to kill this guy. They drop the Desiree. And there's actually a little like introduction to the pilots of that I really like, where one of them is like also in on the Lectitio Divinitatis. He's like super
getting
faithful.
All faithy, yeah.
He's getting faithy. And the other guys are drunk. Because he's like always drinking from his hip flask or whatever. So those are the two pilots of the Titan. Yeah.
And like it comes down and hits and like creates this tidal wave, and it's like, oh man, this is disgusting. This whole thing is just bad news bear. Yeah.
Imagine trying to get that out again. Ugh. Yeah. So, what happens next? I can't remember.
So they're fighting. It's a pitch battle from this point on. The zombies are fighting everyone. People are dying. The Titan is trying to lay down suppressive fire on some level, and it's fairly effective. But there's so much to shoot that like they can't cover it all the time.
Right.
And so Horus leads a group into the ship. Like one of their mass capital ships has crashed here, and that's what's emanating the Vox signal. So they're like, all right, that's where we go. And so Horus is leading the way in, and
So before they go in, Loken actually tries to be like, "Hey, Horus, you need to just like shell this place from a distance, like soften it with the Titan's artillery, right?" And we start seeing cracks in the Mournival forming here, because Horus is just like, "You would have someone else do this? Like, no, we're not just gonna shoot him from afar. We're here. We're going in." And what you end up with is Torgadon and Loken being like left outside to just like hold ground. Like, you're not important.
Zombies.
Yeah. Your job is ostensibly to advise me, but you've tried to do that, and I don't want to be advised. Stay here. He ends up taking someone called Verulam Moy in with him, who's just like some guy. It's like, hey, we needed a guy. Let's invent a guy. He's here now. He's coming in instead. Which, if that doesn't scream red shirt to you, I don't know what does. You know?
Yeah. Without a doubt. It's not very subtle.
Oh, we did miss one bit, which is my favorite bit. There's Patronella Viva, who's this remembrancer, who's come all the way to Terra because her family chronicled the Emperor, so she gets to chronicle his sons, and is like trying her best to be like, no, Horus, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need your permission to go to war. I'm here. I'm here to record the war in all of its glory and its honor, and it's going to be great. Let me go to the battlefield. And he's like, no. Like, you're an unarmed civilian. This is a bad idea. You can stay on the ship. Right?
Right.
Which is a sensible idea. Which she rightly ignores. So she takes her yacht and is like, let's go down to the planet. Let's
at least takes her bodyguard. She doesn't go alone.
True, she takes Magard, her bodyguard. Her
He's had
mute
his vocal cords removed by her rich family because servants should be seen and not heard effectively.
Yeah. Yes. Her God. Even 30K is a horrible place to be. I mean, they've given him like some bionic upgraded eyes so he can like see better. That's nice, and like probably all the best nutrient muscle growth money can buy, and a magic sword apparently, and the ability to like he can only talk by mentally connecting with her memo quill, which is like it's a tablet. He can write on a tablet with his mind. It's interesting that there are definitely at least 3 different kinds of sign language I know of that exist in Warhammer. This man uses none of it, right? Like, they didn't bother to teach him a way to communicate other than with the person he's serving. It's a really nice touch of, like, no, you're an indentured servant, right? Like, you're a bodyguard to this family. You will not be, like, we're not going to give you the ability to communicate with, like, anyone else but the people in this family who have this one specific kind of tech. Yeah. Awful stuff.
Bad times.
So her yacht goes down to the battle and flies at, in the fog bank and can't see where it's going. And the Desiree Titan is like, we've got an inbound something. It's coming. Fire at it because it's a war zone. We have no allied flyers. It can't be good. And shoots her yacht down. She ends up surviving the crash. Same with Magard. He fights off a bunch of zombies by himself. And then Horus comes in and like saves them at the last minute. Kind of winning Horus's respect a little, I think, by being gutsy enough to come. Definitely Magard's, but a little bit to Patronella, I think.
I was gonna say definitely Magard.
Yeah,
because he's like whirling.
He's a warrior
fighter, warrior guy. Yeah,
and that's what other warriors respect, apparently.
Right. If you're good at killing stuff, warriors are like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I get that. You're all right. Anyway, so it's important to remember that I think Petronella has maybe won a little bit of affection from Horus here. But yeah, so he goes into the ship, which I'm trying to remember the name of the ship, but I really can't.
Yeah, me neither. It's the ship. Doesn't matter.
Oh, it's the Glory of Terra. Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he goes in and gets separated from the dudes he's coming with. He's alone. He ends up getting to the bridge of the ship, and there is what is sort of the commander left behind. There's this giant plaguey. It's a plaguey monster, right?
Yes, it is a bloated mess of a man.
Yeah.
Eugen Temple, sitting over the corpse of the red shirt, Moy, Varula Moy.
Yes.
Talking about how he tried to offer him a chance to join him. And then, because I guess that's what Chaos does, even though this is like a hugely intricate plan to get Horus to fall to Chaos, they're still just going to straight up be like, hey, do you want to join? Like,
You might as well ask. All I can say is no.
right?
It doesn't take any time. Just like, hey man, I can offer you power. It's awesome. Let's do this. And if he says no, then you keep going with your other plans. It's fine.
So I think
That was funny.
I think the author just wanted to really show that because he ends up talking to Verulam, and Verulam says like, they showed us this power, and even knowing what it could do, I chose this, right? Like, I knew it was wrong. I saw what it could do, and I chose it. And they need to have him talk to Horus to, like, show him that. That way we can compare that with what Horus does later when he also chooses power and life, and, like, we know that this was something he chose. But you can't have that if he doesn't talk to him. And what does he have to say? It's like, well, he's going to try and offer him to Chaos.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
is just a little blunt and straightforward, and I thought it was funny.
It is. It is funny.
Um,
So then they start fighting, and the bloated plague version of this captain is super fast and super strong because of the power of the warp. And what's kind of sad is that Horus can see the dude like trapped inside the bloated creation, and kind of like he's still in there, but has no control over what's going on. He's just living this nightmare, right? Yeah.
So he's also armed with the anathamed sword, which he whispers a name into it, and immediately the sword starts fighting Horus, just kind of in control of the dude's body. A neat magic, I would say, if you can imbue that into a sword.
Yeah, absolutely.
No need to train actual people. That would be kind of nice.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trope. There are a few examples of that, especially in fantasy settings. Magic swords that fight for you. But what's funny is they're generally considered like cheating and lesser by actual sword fighters.
Oh, yeah?
Like, it's very rare for an accomplished swordsman to be like, wow, I need this. This is great. They're always like, fuck this. This is not cool. Like, I've trained my whole life to be able to fight. I'm not even going to use this now. I'm not going to take this shortcut.
I would love to know what Lucius thinks of that sword.
Yeah. You think he'd want it? Or he'd be like, no, I do this on my own. This is my skill, right?
I think he would be like, no, this is my skill.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Put a pin in that for later.
Yeah.
So they managed to, Horus and Eugen Temple managed to kill each other at the same time, basically. They both managed to land a critical scoring blow at the equal moment. This proves fatal for the plague monstrosity, and less so for Horus, seemingly. He manages
he
to
gets stabbed in the shoulder, which is, for a space marine, an
Nothing.
inconsequential wound that means nothing, right?
Yeah. It should mean nothing. Yeah.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it was apparently coated in like super magic toxin.
Specific to kill a space marine.
Right.
Like, they say that later. They're like, this was designed to screw with the natural defenses of a space marine's immune system.
Not even space marines, Primarchs, which means like
Primarch immune system. Primarch, it's like Primarch AIDS. It is crazy.
yeah. So like, it's great. You developed a toxin that can kill exactly 18 people in the world. That's amazing. That's hyper specific.
But super powerful people, right? Like, incredibly powerful people. Like galaxy shaping people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So worth having, I think. Weird that it just is never showed in the entire 40k world or universe ever again. This magic toxin just disappears.
Oh, that is interesting.
As far as I'm aware, whatever that like
funny.
That magic toxin or whatever it is, it's a property of the sword itself. I don't think it's like they coded it in like
something they developed in a lab.
Right, yeah. So it is like, you can't just share it around and to all of your friends and be like, let's just coat every bullet in this. No.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But,
That'd be nice, but no.
Good to know. Good to know.
Good to know.
Right. So then the rest of the people catch up with Horus, and he's injured, obviously, not doing super well. And he wants to walk out, but that's not great because he's dying. And they're not sure why. Because, again, he's taking a shoulder stab. And, like, we can't get it to stop bleeding, which is weird, but this shouldn't be killing him. So he gets outside of the ship. He collapses, which freaks everybody out because Primarchs are not supposed to collapse. And they basically freak out, get him on a gurney, get him on a ship, get him back in orbit, and
back to the spirit of the vengeful spirit.
Yes, the vengeful spirit.
Yeah. So that's where one of the most interesting things happen, which is they land at the embarkation deck or whatever, like the shuttle bay.
Yeah.
And all it is immediately spread through the ship that Horus is dead, as rumor, everyone who can get to the embarkation deck does to come and see, basically, because they're all scared that the War Masters just died. And what we have is the way Space Marines treat regular people in an emergency, which even Loken is there. They're all pushing this gurney. Even the good Space Marines, Torgadon and Loken, Axemen and Abaddon, just club people to death and crunch them under their boots. They weigh who knows how many tons in their armor, and they're just walking through people, literally.
And do not think about it at all. No part of them is oh, we're hurting people. Nope. We are going. These people, there's stuff in the way. We need to get Horus to the medical bay immediately. Go. Yeah. And Ignace is there.
He's on an observation gantry with Mosadiolaton, so they're not in a risk of being trampled, but they have a view to see everything.
So he's horrified by this. He sees what happens. He sees, and it's not just what happens. It's not just the death and the maiming and the injury that occurs. It's the complete lack of care from the Space Marines. It's that they don't see these people as fellow anythings. They are below them. They are lesser than them. And that makes him super angry and super morally indignant about this. That is how they see us. This is not right. This is not how things should be.
Right.
And since, he's someone who speaks truth, even when it's ugly and even when it gets him beat up. And that's why Loken keeps him around, because he speaks truth. He starts, writing this missive about how this is fucked up and this is not how it should be, and we need to fix this, right?
How Space Marines are a little more than barbarians.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that pisses off a lot of people, needless to say. A lot of Space Marines in particular do not like Carcassy at this point. But they managed to get Horus back to the Medicaid decks, and Chief Medicaid is I got no fucking clue what's wrong with him, dude. His biology is so beyond us what we are to just regular humans.
Right. That's important, because it's because this is a Primarch. I have a general sense of what's going on here, but I do not know everything that's happening. Yeah. So bottom line, they can't fix him. They cannot improve him. They can't stabilize him. They could kind of stabilize him a little bit.
Kind of. It seems like they're just
to improve it all.
Yeah, it seems like they're just they say his blood isn't transferring oxygen around or something, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're just well, let's just give him a bunch of blood, and that'll and until we run out of blood, that'll kind of keep him talking for a little bit. And what he does with this time is gets Patronella Viva to come and take his valedictations, or something like that. It's his valediction. Sorry, not valedictations. Valediction. So he gives his death speech, basically. He believes he's dying. And he starts just spitting secrets about the other Primarchs. He's just airing all of his dirty laundry about his brothers and the Great Crusade.
Because he thinks he's dying. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he thinks he's dying, and then Erebus is hey, so, super coincidentally,
There just so happens to be a lodge. You know, like those warrior lodges I've been introducing you guys all to and spreading throughout the Legion. Yeah, one of those. Turns out there's a lodge down on Davin that, can maybe do a little magic and save him.
And save Horus. And it's a great discussion because the initial response is like, magic is bad. Mm-hmm. But then the rebuttal is, so we're just going to let Horus die without trying it? Right?
It's like, do you want to be the man who'd let Horus die? Like, because it would make you, like, it would dirty your soul a little or whatever? Like,
it's so good.
It's such a good response to people who have ostensibly been fighting for, like, this imperial truth for 200 years that there is no such thing as magic. There are no gods that can comfort you. Death is the end, but, like, science will help bring humanity to an enlightened age. And the moment, like, their dad dies, they're like, fuck it, let's try the magic. You know?
Right. Like, immediately. But that's just how important Horus is, right? Mm-hmm. That's how important, that's how much they love him. That's how much they need him. Mm-hmm. That's how much they feel like the Emperor needs him, right? So, anyway, bottom line, I kind of want to speedrun this next part because it's like, he goes down and they put him in this room.
The Serpent Lodge.
Serpent Lodge.
Who's never trusted a steak, you know?
Yeah, right. Put them in the Serpent Lodge. And the way this works is they're in there for several days. And if they die, they die. And if they recover, they'll walk out. Like, they'll walk out under their own power.
Yes.
So then Horus spends a while having hallucinations and being put in the warp. And different people try to, like, convince him what to do. And
Erebus comes to him in the disguise as, like, one of his friends. His brother comes to him all the way from Prospero. This is, I think, where you can really see that, like, this series is just going to balloon into so many books because Horus is over on Prospero doing magic and mentions, like, the Council of Nicaea, and you're like, what the hell's that? Why haven't I, who is Magnus? Why is this his introduction? And it's all just things that, like, players are supposed to know or readers are supposed to know just from general codex knowledge and stuff from playing the game. But you couldn't shoehorn all of that in this book, right? Because there's so much. And so that's why you end up with so many novels. Because I was like, well, I need this character to be here to do something, but we haven't written the book for it yet. So put a pen in whatever the Council of Nicaea is. They kind of explain enough of it for you, I think, to work out that it's... The Emperor said no more magics, right? No more psyches in the legions.
Yes.
But Magnus is trying to convince Horus not to turn to chaos, which is... implicitly asking him to die because that is what Sejanus is telling him. It's like, look, if you don't decide to become the emissary of these warp gods, who their realm, they don't want anything to do with our realm. They just want to, like, chill in their realm. And the Emperor, it's the Emperor on Terra who's doing some secret project that's tearing apart their own universe. We just need you to be their emissaries and deliver them the Emperor, and they'll go away, we promise.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a big warp vision, and it's like, if you don't do it, you'll die. So Horus is literally choosing between, like, living and dying and, like, betraying the Emperor. Why is my focus gone?
But I don't know, man. Webcams are strange.
There we go.
But it'd be a different story if Horus was regrettably turning against the Emperor, regrettably accepting the warp powers, regrettably allying with these things to stay alive. He embraces it. Like, some of the visions he's shown are like the Emperor abandoning him, or like just trying to show that the Emperor doesn't give a shit about him or any of the Primarchs or anybody else, really.
Right.
Even though you think he does. And so he very easily slips into this, like, all right, fine, fuck you too then. Like, you don't care about me, then I don't care about you. I'm going to take you down and take your place. Like, he's into it, right?
Right.
It's a different thing. It's just a different state of mind, you know?
I mean, I just don't think it can be understated that when Horus is being shown the vision that, like, the Emperor has shrine worlds now, and they're worshipping the Primarchs, and there's 9 of them missing, and Horus is one of them. And he's like, what the fuck? Realizing that someone has betrayed everything you believed they stood for and everything you were doing for them, because like he's running the Great Crusade for the Emperor to dispel the myths of old knight and superstition, to find out that he's done that, I don't think it's not a key point, or not at least a point that Horus is like, and I get to live, right? I need to get up and stop you from doing this, and living is how I do that. Right?
Yes, exactly. That's the mindset.
Yeah.
So bottom line, he chooses the Warband to live and to try to conquer the Emperor, and he comes out of the Serpent Lodge, and everyone's like, hooray!
Hey. And then they have a party, which is weird, because they're like, everyone from the ship had heard that Horus was like in this lodge down on Davin, and
he's in there for 9 days.
It's a long
time.
Tons of people come down from the ship to like leave devotive offerings and pray and all the stuff that they shouldn't be doing. And then like he comes out and they have like a big celebration that Horus is alive, right?
Yeah.
So they talked about how Davin's moon was a forest, right? And that it was ecologically similar to Davin. So they're both forests. And when they have a big planet on Davin, all I could think of was having a big party at like the end of Return of the Jedi in like this forest. Yeah, because they also describe the Davinites as being kind of bestial people that are like just barely separated from the human genome, and I'm like,
distinctly not human, but kind of close.
That's right. Like the like most other legions would have just killed them all for being a little too separated, you know. So when they were like, and Horus came out and everybody cheered, and then there was music playing and there were Ewoks, and that's all I could see in that scene was the end of Return of the Jedi. I don't know. I don't know if that's how you saw that, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of that there. So Horus doesn't come out and go, "What's up, guys? We're taking down the Emperor," because he's a little too smart for that.
Right? Just now he's smart, you know?
Yeah. He recognizes that he needs to
bide his time a little.
Bide some time, make some preparations, get rid of some people who he knows will not go along with this, right? Consolidate power to the people he knows will support him.
Yeah. We've skipped a little bit. Which is where Kirill and Euphrates are like trying to decipher some glyphs that they've found in a book, and Euphrates has pictures of Erebus, and like, oh yes, we can use this as a key to decode the cuneiform and read from this book. Turns out to be the Book of Lorga, and they summon a demon.
Yeah, from the warp. It's real bad.
Yeah, so demons are pretty bad. Not being able to kill demons with bullets and stuff is a usually common thing. And do Carol or Euphrates have bullets? I don't think they had any bullets, Falcon.
No, certainly not.
How will they defeat the demon?
With faith and faith magic.
With faith magic and Ingmei Singh, the chief astropath, who... Astropaths are fun in Warhammer because, they're just psykers. They're just psykers. They have magic. And they send messages back and forth to people. So she comes in and is like trying to hold it. And they're like, look, let's just run. We need to just try and get out of here. But Euphrates has faith. And the faith magic literally like burns the demon.
Yeah, so she grabs an insignia of the Emperor. It's an eagle, right?
It's like a twin-headed eagle pendant or something, So
this monster from the warp is like shooting ray beams at them, and they're dodging and they're diving and they're hiding behind bookcases and stuff. And then they're like, we can't run anymore. And she's like, all right, let's go. So she like turns and faces it. And as she's getting shot, she holds out the Emperor eagle thing and like says some faithy things, and then she doesn't die. The beam doesn't kill her, and the monster is getting murdered by the light emanating from this eagle thing.
Yeah. She does then fall into a coma.
Yes.
So this is like the second book I think you've read with what seems like a saint, at least. In the Dark Imperium, there was a woman who saved Gulliman, more or less.
Right.
A young child. Do you think they're channeling the power of the Emperor? Because
it'd be really weird storytelling if they're consciously trying to summon the power of the Emperor and it's not the power of the Emperor.
Because here's the thing. In 40k, the Emperor's like stuck on the Golden Throne, right?
Yes.
Where he's turned himself into like a lighthouse in the warp and is probably following and looking at what Gulliman was doing. And, you know, there's all these allusions to like the warp was really calm wherever Gulliman went. And it's like the Emperor using his power to soften it or whatever to allow travel. The Emperor's not doing that here. He's not on the throne. He's just like walking around in his laboratory working on his secret project.
I don't know, man. I'm not an expert. I'm just
saying
from a storytelling perspective.
I can give you the alternative theory if you like.
The alternative theory is the warp.
That strong concentrations of faith just emanate psychic powers in general.
So doesn't matter what you believe in, if you believe in something hard enough, you can shoot laser beams.
Kind of.
So if I believe in my coffee cup, that it's divine and has power to save me, then I can fight beings from the warp.
But would you believe you don't even drink coffee?
That's true. My water cup.
No, but like that's another conversation that Gulliman has this like secret council in the book about like trying to discuss whether or not the Emperor is a god. He basically says the same thing, that like there are billions of humans who all think of the Emperor as a god. What's the difference, right? Because that's like having a psychic impact on the warp. So if
and that's Neil Gaiman's American Gods book concept as well.
Okay.
There are gods, but their power is dependent upon how many people believe in them. So, yeah, if you're a small, tiny god from Roman mythology that nobody remembers anymore, you're screwed. Like, you got nothing going on.
Right.
Anyway. So, yeah, that's the idea.
Okay. I agree.
I'm just saying it's an idea that I've seen before. And I like it. As far as ideas go, I do like the idea that collective belief can bestow power. Yeah.
There's an anime called Noragami about this god. It's in Japan, so there's all these gods, and their power is very much based on belief. And he doesn't have a lot of belief working for him, so he's like kind of like a handyman who's just like spamming out his phone number and like, hey, look, I'll grant any wish for 5 yen, like. And he's getting a lot of like, hey, I need you to come clean my bathroom. And they're just like, you sure I can only pay you 5 yen? He's like, no, don't worry about it. And that's how he's like building up his followers.
That's great. Oh, that's super great.
Yeah. So anyway, this book ends with Horus being like, hey, let's go check out this other planet. And there's a little like just a little bit where they're like, all of this, like, navigators and the fleet chartists have no idea why Horus wanted to suddenly travel to this location. There's nothing that seems remarkable about it. And they get there and they come across the Orician technocracy, who was an advanced human civilization who had an STC. Do you know what an STC is? Because they're a thing in the background of 40k.
Yeah, so they talk about it a little bit. It's basically siege weaponry that can adjust itself based on what's needed.
Okay, so I'll give you the background. An STC stands for Standard Template Construct, or Standard Template Constructor. It is both machine and AI that is capable of solving a problem with the resources you have. So basically, you tell it, here's what level of technology we kind of have. Here are the resources we can gather. We've got aliens, and it goes, okay, here's a template for some war machines you can make, and here's how you do it, right? The idea is that they sent these things out to, like, humanity sent these things out when they were colonizing the galaxy to give everyone technology. Like, it's the sum total of human technology. And at this point in 40K, the Mechanicum of Mars do kind of believe in research. Like, the Emperor's like, hey, we're science-pushing progressives. By 40K, they're fully on, like, you cannot invent your own thing. You can only discover technology that already exists. And STCs are basically like finding the Holy Grail.
Got it.
Yeah.
So if you're a Primarch, you're generally going to use this for war purposes.
Oh, yeah. So
they don't have any, though? Like, the Crusade doesn't have these.
So they have some. So what they have is, like, you can... what you could do when you had a fully functioning STC is make hard backups of something, right? And that's what they've found, is they've basically found blueprints that came from STCs that are like, here's how you make power armor or tanks, right?
Yeah.
And that's the one that the Crusade mostly care about. There's a guy called Arcane Land. He's an archaeotech tech priest. Like, he's a... I can't remember his exact title, but he's basically like, I'm Indiana Jones, but for tech priests. That's basically what he does. And he found two STC things and basically named them after himself. So they become the Land Speeder and the Land Crawler. And the Land Crawler is primarily used in, like, grain agriculture. Like, it's used to, like, harvest shit tons of grain at once. So, but the way the Imperium works is, well, it's like, okay, we have this thing. It basically goes across the ground. Let's stick a cannon on it and call it a tank, you know?
Sure. Yeah, that works for me.
Because that combining two pieces of technology you already have isn't inventing new technology.
No. Of course
not. That's just how they get around it. But
yeah.
Finding, like, an intact STC system is so desirable that there's another series of books called Gaunt's Ghost. And in, like, the first book, they're talking about how the last time anyone found an STC, like, template was these 3 guardsmen who were, like, hiding in a cave, maybe, from, like, ditching a war that they were supposed to be fighting, right? They found it, and all it did was made slightly sharper knives, and they gave them each planets to rule. Like, they just installed them as governors.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, when they find this Orishi technocracy and they're, like, having a ceremonial greeting on, like, the vengeful spirit, and they're like, huh, you guys, your armor looks so similar to ours. You're like our little brothers, because they're obviously not gene bulked like Astartes are. They're just people. And they're like, well, yeah, the STCs are all kind of uniform in their design, aren't they? And they're like, excuse me? And Horus does a little assassination attempt of his own. He just...
Not attempt. That works, man.
Yeah. And, you know, all of the Astartes opened fire. They were carrying loaded weapons. And it's interesting because they mentioned that the Orishi technocracy weren't carrying loaded weapons very, like, particular. Like, they came... even like their honor guard with no actual loaded weapons, which seems wild. Like, I get that, like, on ceremony, a lot of, like, parade military drills or whatever, you just don't have loaded weapons because it's about the aesthetic and the show of it. But, like, if you're boarding a neighboring country, a neighboring imperium, right? Even if you're hopeful and you're looking to join, which is what we're seeing here, it's like they've realized they're not alone in the universe, right? That they can, like, expand and trade and be welcomed into humanity's lost empire.
Right.
I would still pack a couple clips.
Yeah, 'cause you don't know these people. You just met. Yeah, absolutely. So, so these STC machines are so valuable that Horus is willing to just plunge his people into a massive, incredibly terrible war for a long time.
Yeah, for months.
Yeah, solely for this. Right.
Yeah.
And then the official story that they tell the people back on the ship and the rest of the Empire is that they
tried
there
to
was
kill
some
Horus.
weapon they brought, and they tried to kill Horus, and they defended themselves. Right.
Right.
Yeah. But
yes.
Loken knows. Loken was there, and Loken's like, so this seems real bad.
We shouldn't have been fighting this war. Like, we should not have been doing it. So in the background, the like Lord Captain of the army is petitioning Horus and Malagos, be like, hey, your space marines kind of killed a bunch of people on the embarkation deck. We get it was an emergency, but like the Imperium needs to stand for justice, and you can't just kill people. Remember? Remember? You can't just kill people. So they end up fighting this war, and like it's like 9 months later. And they're like, there's one last push. Like, they have one palace left to take, right? And Horus has, like, summoned Angron, who I think this is the first time you've met Angron, who is the Primarch of the 12th Legion World Eaters. Who, they have what's called the Butcher's Nails. They're cerebral implants that give them kind of, like, dreads out of the top of their head that only let them feel pain except for when they're angry. Right? And so inflicting violence is the only way that they can be calm. And when you're inflicting violence, you're not very calm. So these people tend to be melee focused and bloody. Real butchers. Not a lot of tactics. So I kind of think Horus knows that this is what they do, right? Like, he's not an idiot about war, at least. In theory. And so when he summons Angron to join him, it's kind of a thing that, like, a lot of people in the Imperium are like, Angron's tactics don't leave us populations to rule over, right? They kind of just slaughter the entire population. And this is the excuse Horus has to have Fulgrim come and have a chat and be like, oh, I'm here to spy on you and tell all those pompous a-holes on Terra that you're fighting the good fight. That's my voice for Horus. For Fulgrim.
Cheerio, old chum.
Yeah. That's my voice for Fulgrim.
Fair.
And I think what we're essentially led to believe is that Horus has some backroom conversations and has turned at least Fulgrim and probably Angron at this point.
Right.
I think that's what we're supposed to see here. But what we end up with is Horus ordering Loken and Garvey, not Garvey is Loken, Garvey, Loken, and Tolgaden into the vanguard of, like, the final push into the palace of the Orician technocracy in what seems like an obvious attempt to kill them, but they're just like, man, I can't believe we're getting the honor of the spear tip, of, like, the vanguard at the final push. Even after everything, Horus has thrown us a bone.
Incredible. Truly amazing.
Guys, this is not an honor. He's trying to kill you.
Like, what do all of us have in common? They're so dumb. They're just the dumbest. How did the Horus Heresy come to pass? Everyone was stupid.
They take this, like, the final push. They take the city. Loken and Tolgaden basically realize that, hey, this is turning into a massacre. We need to stop. But unfortunately, Angron, who had been buried by, like, a landmine blowing up half the city or something, erupts out, starts killing everyone because he's really angry. And Horus had also ordered in Hector Varvarez to, like, hey, the army, the regular people need to follow in and, like, secure the ground behind the Astartes. So they're all there. Loken, again, is like, hey, Angron's killing, they're going to fight back. We need to defend ourselves. So Loken instigates another massacre. And in it, Hector Varvarez takes a bullet to the chest. Or a bolt to the chest.
A bolt? Yeah. I'll, like, hit you here, go, and then you have a giant hole where your chest used to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And at the same time, back on the ship, Magod is giving what was his name? Carcassy some of his poetry back. He was like, "Hey, I found this letter of yours. Do you want to come and pick it. Like, I'm not going to walk over to you. You've got to come here and take it from me. And he starts reading, and it's some real dark poetry. And then makes it look like he killed himself. Put his pistol under his chin and pulled the trigger, which... Poor Carcassy.
Yeah, but like, he knew this was going to happen someday, right?
Right, but he thought he was under Loken's protection.
I know.
And, like, Loken can't protect him from suicide. So it's a really interesting out that they were like, we need to kill this guy, but we can't do it in a way that looks like murder.
Right. Not obvious, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, people figure it out, but yeah.
Yeah, they do.
So basically what you have is Horus clearing his house, right? Getting rid of one of the most troublesome remembrance, killing the one guy who's like, hey, you need to, like, pay up for killing all these people. That's Hector Valvez. They even mentioned that because he died, Horus was able to, like, install the new governor of the Orisha technocracy as someone who was loyal to Valvez as well. Like, they specifically left all the people who would give a shit about his death here so that they would blame the population for his death and, like, rule over it better. So, like, Horus is clever, at least at times.
It's true. It is true. Because if he's not, it doesn't work. Like, we need that.
Man.
Anywho, yeah. Lots of good things happening to people.
Lots of good, happy feelings in the Grim Dark. So that's the second book. That's False Gods. Thumbs up, thumbs down overall.
Thumbs up. Really good. I liked it better than the first one.
Oh, really?
Even though it does have several sections of dreamscape vision quest stuff that I just inherently do not like. I don't know. I think it's because in media, usually when they do it, it's just a dream. There's nothing real about it.
Right.
But in this case, there is real about it. It's the warp.
Right.
The warp is a real thing, right?
And it's being used to connect people.
Yeah.
Is the real key there.
Right. So maybe I should get over my hate of this kind of thing, at least as far as Warhammer goes.
Maybe.
Yeah,
no.
Okay. I should still not like it.
Yeah, there's more dream sequences to come, I promise you.
Okay. No, but I'm saying I should maybe approach them with a more positive attitude when I see one coming.
Maybe. But I mean, yeah, I'm not going to force you to like look at the silver lining of every dream sequence, because I don't think every dream sequence has them.
That's fair.
Anyway, how are we doing on time?
I can keep going if you can.
I can keep going, yeah. Because you crazy man read. It's all right. I've got water. I've got water. I'll be fine. Yeah. So you read 2 books since you're a zippy reader.
Yes.
You also read Galaxy in Flames by Ben Counter, which is saying it's 416 pages. Because I'm also looking at the wiki. I would just like to take this point and say the first 3 books are all directly sequels to each other, right? Straight line.
Right. Yep.
All written by different authors. How did you feel about, like, the characters in each book? Did you always, like, because I think they nailed pulling, like, each character feels exactly the same as the last one did.
Certainly. I didn't notice. I didn't notice any weird writing changes. I didn't feel like the style changed all that much. I felt everybody kind of held to the same characterizations and talking styles and everything. So
yeah,
that was
That's
good.
what I thought. That's what I thought as well. Cool.
Yeah. So bottom line, the third book here, that one's Galaxy in Flame.
Galaxy in Flames.
Galaxy in Flames.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to link to the wiki so you can, like, look over the plot summary as well?
No, I'm good. I think
okay, you're good. You're okay.
Yeah. So this just takes place on
Isfahan.
Yes.
Specifically Isfahan 3, because the next
4.
There's an Isfahan 5. Yeah.
5. Is it 5?
It's 5. I believe it's the next part of the plan is Isfahan 5, and it's very important. So basically, Horus is like, hey, we've received word that there's more rebellions going on. Can you believe it? In this Isfahan system. Let's go there.
Crazy.
and so I think Horus kind of gets away with being like, hey, this is the second time we're hearing of rebellion in like a year. Let's summon 3 more legions and make an example. Right. This is where he gets the Death Guard, the World Eaters, and the Emperor's Children, and the respective Primarchs.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "This is overkill." Like using 3 legions for 1 planet is nuts. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's just insane. So basically, the Emperor, not the Emperor. Horus is like, hey, Fulgrim, I need you to go and try and turn Ferrus Manus of the Iron Hands. I don't think you've met Ferrus Manus yet, because reasons that you'll find out pretty quickly. But Fulgrim goes to try and say, turn him, and so we're given Lord Commander Eidolon again, who is always a joy to read. He is such a pompous piece of shit.
He is. And the other people around him are like, yep, pompous piece of shit. And this is not lost on them.
We're basically reintroduced to the people on the Diaz era, one who is religious and one who is now reluctantly religious. He kind of found faith when Horus was like in his coma. And I think the only thing that happens in like the first part of the book is like there's a meeting about who will attack where, and it's like the Emperor's Children and the Death Guard will kind of attack over here, and I think it's the World Eaters and the Sons of Horus will attack over here. Wow, right. Super interesting. But what we are introduced to is the Death Guard Captain Nathaniel Garrow, who's kind of important for the rest of the story.
Right.
He's not a point of view in this book, but the next book is he is. So if you want to read this along the lines of the list I gave you, the next book, Flight of the Eisenstein, is Garrow's book, basically.
Right, because the Eisenstein is his ship.
Yes.
Let me see if that's available. Okay.
Yep. So basically what we know is that the Coral City, Garrow and Soltavitz are old friends. Soltavitz being another one of the Emperor's Children who was on the planet Murder. But he's kind of not an arsehole. Like, he's still prideful, but he gets along with everyone else, and that's a neat change.
It certainly is. It's a nice breath of fresh air.
Basically, Garrow gets injured assaulting some city or whatever, and Lord Commander Eidolon and Soltavitz go and kill this war singer, who there's like all this little stuff in the background where like Isfahan has like it still has its gods. Like they were like, oh, the city is ancient even before the Imperium, right? Mm-hmm. Let's not destroy it. And when the first time they came around and complied it, they were like, look, city's pretty as fuck. Let's not destroy it. But unfortunately, the city was also like a giant church, so they also let them kind of keep their gods. Right. And they have all this like myth about like Father Istvan, who is like their god or whatever, and like the war singers who were like their preachers, and they're basically just battle psychers, right? So Eidolon kills this battle psyker with some sort of a sonic screech from his throat. And is just like, no, soul. Who?
The singers.
The war singer.
War singer. Okay, I keep wanting to call them world singers. They're war singers because they do
war.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Eidolon is just like, no, soul. It was force of will. I killed it with force of will. That's all you need to know. Right. He kind of doesn't let it go, and is given a trip down into Fabius Bile's laboratory aboard.
It's a mad scientist laboratory. Yeah.
That is exactly what it is. He is chief apothecarian to the Emperor's Children, and he is doing experiments on them. You get a little reference to the lair, or the Laren, where they're like, hey, you remember how we were fighting these Laren people a while back, and they had like all these things? Well, I'm doing that to the Legion. And Saul's like, you're tampering with the gene seed. How fucking dare you? And kind of just leaves, right? He's like, I've discovered basically, traitors in my legion. I'm just gonna leave it. And walks away. That's kind of what he does, which is sad, but he's also talking to the two people in charge while Fulgrim's away. So Fulgrim's not there, and he's like, I don't have anyone to tell. So I guess that's kind of an excuse for him just being like, I guess I won't touch this for the moment. Like, I'll just put a pin in it.
Right.
I mean, did you kind of get that reading it, or because I've got a bunch of background knowledge on what
it's definitely like, here's the thing that's going on. We're not getting deep into it, and now it's gone. Like, we'll come back to this. Yeah,
we'll come back to it. Put a pin in it. Yeah. So, is there anything else that happens? Like, there's a bunch of like trying to kill Euphrates while she's asleep, and like. Carol Cinnamon's moving her around and they're sleeping below decks and stuff like that. And there's a little bit of that going on because she's like still asleep. But basically the rest of this book feels like it's one big battle. All right. I think it's like 90% of what it is.
Starts off as one war and turns into another one.
Yeah. So the Coral City, there's... What happened? Garrow's not deployed because he was injured in the first fight, right? Mm-hmm. So what we end up with is Torgadon and Loken are being deployed, and they're like, hey, this is super weird. I don't have my entire company. Horus chose the deployment by squad basis. That doesn't make any sense. Right. I really don't get what's going on. And there's this really nice, like, obvious foreshadowing moment where Torgadon and Loki are like, Logan are talking, and they're like, look, let's just get through this. After Istvan, we're going to make everything right. We can heal the Mournival. We'll get back together.
Everything will be sunshine and rainbows again.
Yeah. We'll talk about this after Istvan, I promise. And I'm like, oh, you poor fools.
Oh,
this is the second time.
That's bad. Yeah, that's a lie. You're just wrong. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Saul Tarvitz is like... Hey, I remember what this. He's at the Emperor's Children's Victory Feast, which they ceremonially have before the battle. Right. Because they are such pompous a-holes that they have their victory feast before the fight.
Yeah, I mean, their history kind of encourages that kind of behavior, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to think of like some rational reasons for why you might do that, and I'm like, okay. They win all their fights, or at least, you know, the majority of them or whatever. Are their dead victorious as well, right?
Right.
So if you have the feast beforehand, all of the people who died in that battle got to celebrate it.
That's true.
Even though they won and died, they got to win. So let's have the feast now.
That's kind of a nice perspective. I kind of like that.
Yeah. It's nice. It's still supremely arrogant to assume you're going to win, but
but it's honoring and respecting those who will fall in the upcoming battle too.
I don't think there's anything in this book that says that that's why they're doing it. But I'm just looking for reasons to be nice to Saul. Yeah,
I support that. I'll sign your change.org petition.
Thank you.
Dear Warhammer writers, put this in one of your books. Thanks.
Please. Anyway, he goes and chats to a guy called what's his name? He's a dreadnought. He's like, hey, can we swap places for a bit? Oh god, I can't remember his name. Rylanor. Do you remember him having a chat with Rylanor where he's like, his body has been destroyed beyond healing, so they entombed him in a sarcophagus, and this is kind of your introduction to dreadnoughts.
Right.
Which, have you seen a dreadnought? I know there's some in the Dark Imperium, so you would have like read.
Yes, I've
all of them.
But
have you seen it would have been a Contemptor dreadnought if you're gonna Google.
I am Contemptor.
Contemptor. Emperors. Actually, you can just Google for Rylanor because he's like a named character.
So I'm getting a lot of models here.
Yeah, you're probably getting the right one.
So they're mech suits.
Kind of, but instead of being like you're wearing that, there's kind of just like the abdomen and head of a mostly dead space marine that they couldn't heal properly.
Right.
Being kept alive in there.
Reminds me of Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Krang?
It's a brain inside a like humanized mech suit.
Okay. Oh yeah. That is that's basically it.
Kind of it, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And Rylanol's like, hey, something is definitely wrong. And at this point, I'm going to ask you to put another pin in this. Rylanol's like, man, something's really wrong with the Legion. And I will swap places with you. You'll stay behind on the ship, and I'll go down to the city. In 2 books' time, you're going to read Fulgrim, if you can. And that is set just like, it's all the stuff at Laren, and it's all the Emperor's Children up until this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once you read all the shit that's been going on with the Legion, you're like, how did anyone not notice it? You know?
Yeah.
There's kind of...
Everyone's oblivious.
Everyone's kind of oblivious. It's a little bit of a wonky writing, but it works if you have only read these 3 books. But once you get to Fulgrim, you'll be like, what the fuck?
Okay, so I was able to get Fulgrim and the
Flight of the Eisen. Yeah.
Eisenstein. Yeah.
Flight of the Eisenstein.
Okay, so those have been my books for the week. That sounds good.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, good.
Yep. Cool. I'm just checking my list that I gave. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So they swap, and Saul Tarvitz oversees that, like, the Emperor's Legion, no, the Emperor's Children Legion, their deployment, and is like patrolling the gun decks, and that's kind of what he's doing. The rest of them are all like on the planet. Lucius is down there. I'm getting names. Torgan Garvey, Nero Vipers is down there. Lacasta Squad, and they're all deploying by drop pod. So none of them have ships. It's a subtle piece of telling information that they're all being deployed in a way that they won't give them means to return. Like, there's no escaping the planet because they're all being sent down there in a box, not a ship. Which I thought was a neat little piece that I probably missed on the first try.
I picked up on it. I was these are one ways.
Because I also noticed that the drop pods all go off course and they start like smashing into the sides of buildings. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's deliberate.
Probably, yeah.
Probably, yeah. Let's break up the squads. Let's make it hard for them to communicate. Let's let them get killed in any ways we can. Mm-hmm. And so the war's kind of having some issues. Like the Emperor's Children are trying to coordinate. The Death Guard are trying to coordinate. The Des Irae, the DS Irae is dropped. And they're shooting at stuff. And that's when all of the remembrances get summoned by Horus to the observation deck to make amends for the rift between the Legion and the remembrances, which can only be good things, right? Like, Horus is such a magnanimous man. He wants to make friends with the remembrances, Falcon.
No.
The
remembrancers that we know are like, it's obviously a trap.
It is so obviously a trap.
Yeah, so he summons them to be like, check this out. There was rebellion and heresy going on, and we're just going to wipe this whole world clean. This is how we deal with this garbage, right?
This is war, and you've been seditiously writing slanderous shit about us, not showing us respect. You want the outcomes of war, but don't want to, sanction the people who do it. Well, here, watch what war means. And that's when they do virus bombing.
Yeah, which is amazing.
So I don't think you've read about virus bombs before.
I haven't, but I mean, it's kind of a self-explanatory concept. If we're
right, they explain it pretty well.
They do.
It is the life eater virus that eats anything biological, basically, and degrades it into gas. Just kind of melts at people.
It melts you. It doesn't give you cardiac arrest. It doesn't stop your brain. You melt.
Melt. Yeah.
Good heavens. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Saul Tarvitz on his ship realizes that they're about to bomb all the Astartes that they just sent down on the ground, and steals a Thunderhawk and basically flies to the surface to try and warn everyone. But in the meantime, like, manages to talk to Garrow in the Eisenstein and be like, hey, they're about to virus bomb. We need someone to go and tell the Emperor. And so that's what Garrow does. Garrow basically pieces out and goes and tells the Emperor.
Yeah. What I like about the virus bomb, too, is that they're very particular that if it doesn't have anything to kill, it dies out really fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is how viruses actually work. If it's not inside a body, it cannot survive outside of a body for very long. So I just appreciatied that bit.
It's a neat touch.
Science. Yeah.
That it eats itself out is kind of what they say as well. Like, because like most viruses need to be shared by some kind of contact, but this just moves through in whole planets, whole sectors. And they do talk about it being air bursts, so like it bursts in and disperses across a huge area to begin with.
Right.
So Salt Harvest manages to land and gets warnings to people like Lucian and Garrow and some of the World Eaters, although the World Eaters pretty unhappy about being told to take cover.
Yeah, 100%. For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, Darvitz, your plan is to go down there with them and tell them we're going to get bombed? What are you, stupid? But then they're like, we have bunkers we can hide in. And I was like, oh, okay. Fair.
Okay. Fair. Right. But also there's like a communications blackout. It's like, what are you going to do from up there? Let them all die? Like, he doesn't have a lot of choice. If he broadcasts... I mean, one, he's in a Thunderhawk. I don't think it's maybe got the Vox range, but like if he was still on his ship, he would have to like fight his way to the Vox relay stations on the deck on like the bridge or whatever. Like, I don't think that's working. So he doesn't have a lot of options.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah. So even the Desiree is like power down weapon systems. Let's seal the entire Titan itself. And the Life Eater virus comes along and turns everyone into lovely soup.
Delicious people soup.
But is Horus done there? Does he stop there, Falcon?
No, absolutely not.
What does he do next? Tell me. Let me rest my throat.
He bombs the ever-loving crap out of it.
So all the gas sits in the atmosphere.
Yes.
And he ignites it.
Right. It's this two-step process of the virus. It kills it, melts everybody, and then leaves this incredibly flammable, explosive gas in the atmosphere.
Yes. So he's able to then burn the entire planet, which is where you get basically the title, or something that is like the famous line that Horus said, which is "Let the galaxy burn." That's a line that comes up. Not in books a lot, but it's like synonymous with like quoting Horus, "Let the galaxy burn," you know?
Right.
So people survive, and they like thousands. Like I think Loken at one point describes it as like thousands of sons of Horus who realize they've been betrayed by the War Master. They revert to their old Legion colors and name. I don't know about colors because they probably don't have access to a lot of paints to repaint their armor.
Probably not.
But they go back to being the Lunar Wolves, which I don't know why, but like, you know when in a movie where there's like obvious emotional bit is playing and like the music starts to swell and it's doing its thing and like all of the filmmaking tricks just make you go, oh, they're going back to like the Lunar Wolves, and like it really has me where they're like throwing off the like they've been struggling to find their place in the Legion and they're being separated from their Monophile brothers, and they're just like, no, fuck it, we're the Lunar Wolves, we are loyal, and like I feel this moment cinematically, you know?
Yeah, totally.
I don't know if you had that experience, but every time I read this book, I'm like,
this would make a great movie. Just this whole everything that happens here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So apparently, they were able to hold out on Isfahan 3 for months.
Right.
Just fighting like this, not really a guerrilla campaign against the now openly traitors of the War Master. But basically Horus can't bomb them because Angron, before anyone else, just ran down there to be like, my sons lived through that. Those like sons of bitches, and tries to kill them himself.
Right.
Angron is very angry. Not a lot to him beyond that. I think you're getting it at this point.
Appropriately named. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's actually a lore video that I watched from a YouTuber who's like went through and like talked about all the references, all the Primarchs are named, and he gets to Angron and he goes, he's angry. I literally think that's it.
If you try to kill him, he just gets more angry.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So they end up managed to hold out for months. Horus is forced to kind of commit to this ground war that he doesn't really have time for because...
because the longer this goes on, the more danger the Emperor hears about this and sends people to kick his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do get some information about, probably much earlier in the book, I'm jumping around, but like, he sent the Rebut Guilliman to muster at Calth, which is like very far away, with the word bearers who we know are evil because Erebus is a word bearer, so that can't be good.
Correct.
He briefly mentions the Lion and Sanguinius, two other Primarchs who are like, let's just send them far away as well. And what we see is him maneuvering the most likely to be loyal and the biggest legions just far away. The people who are most likely to be able to stop him.
Right. Smart.
Yeah, so Horus actually gets a really good, like, the element of surprise for this, like, is so powerful, and he puts himself in a really good position because he's now culled the loyal elements from his legion, blooded his traitor Astartes in, like, Astartes on Astartes combat, right? Which not a lot of people have done. I mean, there's a little bit where, like, the Space Wolves and Lehman Russ, who I don't think you've met yet, kind of had to go and fight some other Astartes, but like stopped halfway through because he's also just kind of angry.
Yes.
and he very interestingly wrote all that down into like he made a book about it. Like, here's what I learned fighting these other Astartes before the Emperor told me no. And he gave that book to Horus because he's like, well, if somebody is ever going to use this information on what it's like to fight other Astartes, it'll be the War Master. He's the one who should have this information. So, you know.
Yeah, that backfired.
Just a little bit. And then we finally get the closing scenes, which is where Lucius is fighting his ego, I guess, and being told that Saul, who is supposed to just be a line captain, is actually very good at leading the Emperor's children and the forces under his command in this dogged defense against the sons of Horus.
Yes.
And he does a little traitor, which is where I got my favorite message from you.
Seriously.
Yeah. Now fucking Lucius has turned traitor. I hope he doesn't succeed. And I'm like, oh, buddy.
Yeah. When he didn't respond, I was like, that's not good.
Well, I didn't respond for two reasons. One, because I didn't know how to without spoilers. Yeah. And I was at like lunch with my dad. So
fair.
Yeah. So Lucius kills. It's interesting that his plan to like buy his way back into his legion still ends up with him killing a bunch of his legion. He's like, well, I need to get a working Vox relay going from like one of their captains because they'll have an open line to the Lord Commander. So he like very clearly seeks out and challenges like a chaplain or like a captain. I can't remember who it is. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's some guy. He's got a Crozius. Chaplain Charmosian, there we go, there's the name. Cuts off his head, so it's a clean break with his helmet, and fishes out the Vox network and be like, hey, Eidolon, I've got a deal for you.
And Eidolon's like, I hate you, but I'm listening.
Yeah. Eidolon, who is like commanding the Emperor's children, but he's the Astartes commander next to all the Primarchs commander, so he needs to make himself look good, is willing to take this deal to like secure a victory. Khan, who was briefly introduced as like Angron's equerry, and someone who kind of level-headed. Like, he was level-headed enough to be like, I'm going to walk through a museum and look at all these relics and weapons we scavenged from our defeated enemies and talk about which enemies we should remember and whatnot. He's kind of level-headed. Who does he find? He finds Loken, yeah. And there he's just like frothing mad, screaming about the Eightfold Path. So, something's happened. Well, off page.
Yeah, certainly. Like, what's going on here exactly? Yeah.
Yeah, put a pin in that.
Lots of pins.
Gets run over by a tank. Gets impaled with the dozer blades on a tank, and that's how Loken is able to get away. Which is
great. It is some great imagery.
It's great, yeah. Loken and Torgadon realize that Horus, Axeman, and Abaddon, their former Mournville brothers, have finally landed, committed to the siege or whatever of the loyalists, and have decided to go and try and duel them, essentially. Meanwhile, Saul has we've lost contact with Lucius and his squad on the western side. Let's go and check it out. And sees Lucius fighting a bunch of Emperor's children. And this is the bit that breaks your heart when you were telling me that I hope Lucius doesn't succeed. It's Saul rushes to the defense of his friend to kill the people attacking Lucius, and realize not only does he realize Lucius has betrayed them, that he's tricked him into killing loyalist brothers.
Right.
Oh, this is where this could be a movie for me, and
and it would be good.
It would be so good.
It's really work.
Yeah. Torgadon gets killed by Axeman. Loken gets the snot beat out of him by Abaddon. And there's some stuff about the guy in the Desert Ire who's gets killed by his crew because his crew, what was his name? Jonah Arukin is nah, I'd rather be a Titan pilot than worship the Emperor.
Yeah, this is his personal ambition. This is what his career goal is.
Yeah. So he shoots him. Everyone who seems like they were good guys is dying or dead, and that's when Horus is okay, we can bombard the planet now. Which really makes Lucius's deal seem really bad for Eidolon. He's Lucius just manages to get back to the Emperor's children ship, and then Horus agrees, okay, we can bombard them now. So Eidolon kind of gets a raw deal, but Lucius escapes. Torgadon is dead. Loken is dead. Neurovipers is dead. The traders are in a very powerful position. They do mention that the world leaders, they've lost almost half their legion. That's how many they expected to be remain loyal, and that's how many they had to kill, plus losses fighting those guys.
Right.
Which seems bad, but that's the state of the Heresy. The Heresy is now in open session.
Yeah, that's how things have been going.
Yep.
And now you understand why Warhammer 40k is in such a bad state.
Oh, we're just getting started.
Now you know how it started.
So that's the first 3 books. Thumbs up for this one as well?
Yeah, thumbs up. Really
thumbs
well
up.
Done, well written.
You can see why 60 books out of this is suddenly not so insane when you realize there are legions that aren't even being talked about yet, and
right,
the first 3 books are bangers, right? So it's we want to write more, so let's have some more and maybe touch on all these other stories, and then it just spirals out of control.
Right.
A little bit. Yeah.
Because there's so much going on and so much ground to cover and so many planets and so many conflicts and so many different peoples and I think
that's everything. Oh, don't know how we did miss. Euphrates Keeler wakes up. Carol Cinnamon and Mercedes Olaton and Iacton Cruz manage to slip out of the obvious Remembrancer trap. Kill Magard.
Yep.
And escape to a Thunderhawk and fly away
Yeah, to the Eisenstein.
to
right?
the Eisenstein. Yes, I wasn't sure if that was covered here, but yeah.
Yes, that's where they go. And Horus knows that's where they went.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they managed to escape. Yeah.
Right.
Whew.
So they made it out, which is nice because it's like, you can't kill everyone. Good grief. No, some people are surviving this book at least. We'll see how this goes.
So the list of like what you should read that I gave you was basically a list of the books I've read, written, and I've listed them more or less in chronological order that they came out.
Yeah.
As well, because chronological in the events of the story doesn't matter. But at some point, I'm like, all right, here's what I've read, and now skip to the Siege of Terra. Siege of Terra, I think, is a collection of like 9 or 10 books. They're all straight after another.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah, but they're all really good, I think, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously, out of like the 70 books or whatever, I've not read all of them. If I've only offered you a list of maybe 15, and then the Siege, it looks like. There are things that I know that happen in other books that I've just not listed because I've not read those books.
Right.
And so as we go through reading more of these, if you want, we can just add on books that I haven't read either that I think are probably going to be good books. I've heard some books described as being pretty blah, and we can skip all those in together.
Sure, they can all be winners, yeah.
No, they can't all be winners. But it's just like... I have spoilers about things that will be like that you'll work out very quickly if you skip to the Siege of Terra that we just won't cover. And I'm like, do I just give you those, or do we like read the books? You know?
Yeah. Let's read the books.
Let's read all the books. All the books.
Maybe the ones that are good.
The ones that are good. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. So up next, Fly to the Eisenstein.
That's what I've got downloaded here. Yep.
Excellent.
Ready to go. I'll start it today.
Oof. Just one book this week, though.
Okay.
Are you going to do 2 again? Because, like, this is a long podcast for us. Do you have time next week? Like, you normally, like, after the podcast,
No,
you're like,
right. I don't have time next week.
I got to go whip the kids into doing the dishes, and they're hard
I
works.
certainly do. They've been good, though.
Have they?
Last time it was all done, and it was great.
Oh, wow.
They're figuring it out. Anyway.
They're growing up so fast. Oh.
Growing up too fast, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Okay, fine. One book. We'll cover that next week. We'll do the Eisenstein, and that'll be good.
Yep. All right. I look forward to it.
Okay, well, we're gonna wrap this up then, because this was long. You're right.
This was long.
It was fun though. Yeah. All right, cool. So that is going to be it from us today. This has been Falcon Paladin and Somicron with another edition of Falcon Hour, streamed live at twitch.tv/Somicron. VODs go to youtube.com/@Somicron. You can catch us Monday evenings if you're in the Western Hemisphere, Eastern Hemisphere-ish. You can catch us on Tuesdays. I don't know how that works. But I don't think that was accurate, but whatever. You can support the podcast
Close enough.
at patreon.com/Somicron and also by buying merch at falconpaladin.store. So check those places out, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Thanks for being
Bye-bye.
here. And until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.